Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're watching from, or wherever you're watching. It is good to see you, or rather, it's good to be seen. We're going to be doing some Q&A today, questions and answers. Should have done this a long time ago. I just honestly haven't had the time. As you can see, I've been doing quite a lot of editing, quite a lot of filming, and you're going to be happy when you see what's coming up the next few weeks because we've got some fantastic hunting episodes coming. I just felt pretty bad looking at my Facebook page, looking at my YouTube channel, seeing all the questions, all the comments, and just not having the time to answer all of them. Don't feel like I'm ignoring you if I don't get to your questions or your messages. I get about 100 questions a day, so I just don't have time to see all of them. But that's why we're doing this video. I went to my Facebook page a few days ago, put up a little live video, and I said, if you've got questions, post them in the comment section. I'm going to do a video where I answer those questions. So that's what we're going to do today. If you look down here, you'll see a whole lot of questions. I've chosen some of the most relevant questions, some of the questions I get asked the most, and we're going to answer those right now. All right. So first question on this list here by Adam Crowson. What is your most favorite all-round rifle that you've used? That's a very popular question, and I'm afraid there's no straight answer to that because, as with all things, I think you grow attached to something, you use it a lot, you eventually kind of get to know the gun well, and after a while you want to try something new. And so I found that my favorite rifle is constantly changing. For a very long time, my favorite rifle was the Air Arms S510. It's a very good gun, extremely reliable, probably one of the most reliable rifles in the world. And then I think for a while, my favorite rifle was the Daystate Wolverine. I just really enjoyed the extra shot count I got from that as opposed to the S510. It's a very accurate gun. At the moment, I'd say my favorite rifle is probably a tie between the FX Impact and the FX Royale. The Impact just is by far the most technologically advanced air gun in the world at the moment. I know it doesn't have all the fancy mechanics, fancy electronics that the Daystate guns have, but the technology that goes into just all the little bits of ingenuity, the regulator, the power adjustments, the science behind the smooth twist barrel, you guys have no idea what goes into that. I've seen a glimpse of the physics that goes into the design of those parts, and it is mind-blowing. So the things I've been able to do with the Impact at long range, it's the best long range gun I have at the moment. I absolutely love that thing, and that's why I've been doing so much videos with it. So yeah, the Impact is one of my favorite guns at the moment. My other favorite is the Royale. Man, that thing is so beautiful. It's not quite as adjustable as the Impact, not quite as compact as the Impact, but it's light, it's beautiful. It's just an absolute joy to shoot with. It's really nice to shoot off the bench as well because it's long. That pistol grip is the best pistol grip I've ever felt. Trigger's amazing. So yeah, those are my two favorite guns at the moment. Next question. Most of your rifles have adjustable power. How often do you change the power on your rifles when hunting? That question's by Carl Gibson. Now, the key word here is while hunting, and the answer to that is I do not touch my power settings while hunting. What I will do is I will choose the power setting according to what kind of hunting I want to do. For example, if I'm doing a pest control job, I don't want there to be pellets damaging, let's say, tin roof or a wall or something like that. I can turn the power down, I can set it there, but then what I have to do is I have to shoot the gun over a chronograph. I've got to get all the drop data for that specific power, and I've got to put that down on some kind of range card or put it in a ballistics app so that when I do go hunt, I've got everything set up for that power. You don't want to be changing something in the field because then you're not going to know how your rifle's going to be shooting. So yeah, to answer that question, I don't change the power in the field at all. Might do it beforehand, but generally I tend to set a power for a rifle, power that works, a power that's giving me good efficiency to power ratio, and I will keep it there forever. And that's why I've got more than one rifle. I've got rifles suited to different kind of jobs. Like for example, if I have a 12 foot-pound the S410 TDR, the ARMS rifle. It's a very good pest control gun, set at 12 foot-pounds, you know, shooting pigeons on a roof or something like that. Next question. Does a regulator increase shot count? Which caliber is better for flatter trajectory, 0.22 or 0.25? Thanks. And that question is by Kashif Hamid Khan. Does a regulator increase shot count? It doesn't necessarily increase shot efficiency, in other words, how much air the gun uses per shot. It might actually decrease that. What it does do is it increases your range of usable pressures or your working pressures on the rifle, and it flattens your trajectory, which means that you're able to shoot from, let's say, a higher pressure to a lower pressure and get more shots within that range. So overall, I'd say yes, it does increase your shot count, or at least it can, but it doesn't increase the amount of air, or doesn't decrease the amount of air used per shot. It just flattens your curve so you can get more usable shots out of that string. And then the other half of that question was which caliber is better for flatter trajectory, 2.2 or 2.5? There's no better caliber for flatter trajectory. When you talk about trajectory, you're talking about ballistic coefficient and muzzle velocity. Those are your most important things. If you've got two calibers, let's just say we're comparing 2.2 and 2.5, generally the heavier or the larger calibers will generally have a higher BC, so the 2.5 might have a high ballistic coefficient, which means it's not going to slow down as much through the air. That would be a better long range caliber. But if you are, for example, using JSB Monster 2.2 pellet, or a 2.2 pellet with a high BC compared to a 2.5 pellet with a low BC, let's say for example a Predator Polymag, and you're shooting them at the same velocity, then the pellet with the higher BC will be a better long range pellet. So to answer that question in short, the pellet with a higher ballistic coefficient will be your better long range pellet if they are all shot at the same power. And generally in countries where there aren't any power restrictions, like South Africa, America, most of the rifles will be shooting around 900 feet per second, maybe between 850 and 950. And in that case, I'd say probably the bigger the caliber, the better it is for long range shooting. So that whole story about 177 being the better long range caliber or the flatter trajectory is absolute rubbish. Unless you're living in the UK and you have energy restrictions, in which case the 177 will be shooting faster, so it will be your better long range caliber. Okay, next question. Of all the air rifles you have shot with, which was the most accurate? That is something that is constantly changing, and it depends on one very important factor: the batch of pellets that you buy. So I think for close range shooting, it's always been kind of a tie between the Air Arms S510 and the Daystate Wolverine. Those have been my two rifles that I've owned that have been the best at close range. And it all depends on what batch of pellets I have, and you can't predict it. So sometimes I'll buy a batch of pellets and it'll shoot better out of the one gun, sometimes it'll shoot better out of the other gun. And that's why it's nice having both rifles, I suppose, because you can use whichever one is shooting best at the time. And then out of the longer ranges, nothing can compare to the FX guns. They are just suited to long range shooting because of the twist rate in the barrel. The twist rate is much slower, and that basically means that the pellets are not going to overstabilize. I'll explain that in a coming video, barrels and twist rates. And it also means that if there's any weight discrepancies or any pellets that are not formed properly, the smooth twist barrel is more likely to stabilize those properly because they're not spinning really fast. Pellets are drag stabilized. They don't need that extremely fast twist rate. The fast twist rate you find in, let's say, Lothar Walther CZ barrels, it's a little bit silly because pellets don't need that. The only twist the pellets need is when they leave the barrel. You've got something called like transitional ballistics, that air is coming behind the pellet and it wants to flip it around. You just need enough twist to overcome that initial pellet wanting to flip around. The smooth twist barrel gives just enough twist for that, but lets the pellet do its own thing downrange, and that's why my FX guns have been the best for long range shooting. Right, so that I can't give you a definite answer on what's the best or my most accurate rifle. It's constantly changing, but close range so far it's been S510 and Daysat Wolverine. Long range FX. Okay, next question. Okay, Hassan Mirza asks, tell us about the fixed shroud you have on the Impact and how to install it. A lot of people have been asking me about that shroud. What I like about that shroud is that, first of all, it's a little bit quieter than the telescopic shroud, and second of all, I don't need to worry about extending the shroud and shortening it every time I shoot. It's fixed, it's there. I really like that fixed shroud. I have no idea where you can get it. I live in South Africa. I would get something like that from Airgun Warehouse in Johannesburg. But if you somewhere else, you'd have to just phone your FX distributor and ask them, do they have it in stock? And if not, can they order it in for you? That's all I can really answer for now on that fixed shroud. Next question. When will you review the Air Arms TX200? And I'm going to tie that in with another question that's asked you a lot. When are you going to do hunting with a Springer? And another question is, why don't you shoot with Springers a lot? I've got the TX200 now. You saw me unboxing it a while back. I really like that gun as far as Springers go. And I will be doing, I don't know if I'll do a hunting video, but I will be doing a review of the TX200 quite soon. The only reason I have not been shooting with Springers up until now is not because I don't like Springers or because I have no experience with Springers. I actually have a lot of experience with Springers. I shot with Springers for 10 years straight before getting my first PCP. So I know a lot about Springers. But the reason I don't choose to use them is because they are extremely violent to shoot. You've got all the big moving piston inside. It shakes the rifle around a lot, and it makes it very difficult to group well. You can group well, but you have to hold the rifle the same every single time. Springers are extremely hold sensitive, and that absolutely sucks when you're trying to shoot, when you're trying to be versatile in your shooting. In other words, with a Springer, you cannot just fit a bipod or shoot off a sandbag, shoot prone, and then expect to take a standing shot and have the same point of impact. Because the recoil is so violent, your point of impact is going to shift every time you change your hold. And obviously you can't hold the rifle the same when you're shooting prone, or you can't shoot off a bipod and then shoot standing up and expect the same point of impact shift. Whereas with a PCP, you can. So, and a PCP, you're just able to get much better power out of the gun. Obviously you've got the different magazines, so you can take shots quite quickly. I just way prefer the PCPs. That's the truth. I just hate the thought of taking a Springer hunting when I could be taking a PCP out. It's a bit of a no-brainer. So that's why I haven't done it yet, but hopefully we'll do that TX200 video soon. Right, next question. Hi Matt, how about doing some tests with some entry-level PCPs? I see all these high-end PCP rifles, but not all of us want to spend too much on PCPs. Thanks. It's a question by Mark Prinsloo. And the answer to that would be, I've actually wanted to do a review of the, the BSA, can't remember the name now. I've got a friend with a BSA that I want to review. Scorpion, the BSA Scorpion SE. I really, really like that gun, and that's as entry level as I'm prepared to go. I think that if you go any lower than that, you're going to get some guns that are really not made very well. They're a little bit sketchy. They're going to break. So the BSA is probably the lowest I'm prepared to go in terms of price. I'd call that an entry level PCP, the BSA Scorpion, but it is a really good gun. For the money, I don't think there's many guns better than that. So hopefully I can borrow that from a friend soon and review it. I've just got so much on my plate at the moment, but I will get to that eventually. Okay. Next question. Oh, that's about as many as I'm going to be able to answer from these questions. The other questions are probably not a little bit specific and not questions that all of you will want to hear. There is one more question I'm going to answer, and that's a question that is not on this question list, but I get asked it very often, and that is, would I choose first focal plane scope or second focal plane scope? And that is a question I've been thinking about a lot recently, and I'm actually going to be doing reviews of 2 different scopes going to be sent to me. They're the same scopes, but they are, the one is first focal plane, the one is second focal plane. So I'm going to talk about the difference between what those are. Essentially, a first focal plane scope is a scope that when you change the magnification, the reticle zooms as well. So you never have to calculate like your mil dot change or your holdover change when you change the magnification, that your calculation is going to be the same every single time. And I think that in theory, a first focal plane scope is way better than a second focal plane scope. Also because it's calibrated all the time. With a second focal plane scope, if you want to shoot at 10 times magnification, you've got to make sure that that 10 times is completely lined up. Otherwise, if it isn't, it's going to be, let's say, maybe 10.5 times, and your mil dots are not going to be calibrated correctly. You're going to find that the pellet's dropping higher or lower than you expect, and that is not good. So my suggestion would be, if you've got a second focal plane scope, I would say calibrate your scope by putting a 10 centimeter piece of paper at 100 meters, making sure that that spans exactly 1 mil dot, and then making a little mark on your magnification ring so that you know that that is exactly where your scope is calibrated, and then leave it at 10 times all the time. Which kind of begs another question: if you're going to shoot it 10 times all the time, why not just get a fixed 10 scope? And I think that's an extremely good alternative. I'm actually buying a fixed 10 scope soon for my 260 Remington, because I'm going to be doing some long range precision shooting with that rifle. A fixed scope is going to be calibrated correctly all the time, and the quality of the picture is going to be way better because there's a lot less glass or a lot less lens pieces needed in a fixed scope. So your quality is going to be way better, and the scope is going to be cheaper. So I think to answer that, I would say either get a fixed magnification scope or a first focal plane scope. The only thing, well, there's 2 drawbacks to a first focal plane scope. Number 1, FFP scopes are expensive. Number 2, you might find that at low magnifications the cross is too fine to see, and at high magnifications it's too thick to see. So you're going to struggle to kind of locate your target, or it's just going to be distracting. So that's definitely something you want to consider. Right, and that's about it. Those are all the kind of most important questions, or the most common questions I get asked. I hope that answers some of it. I'll probably be doing these Q&A sessions more often. They're nice, easy videos to do, and I do like to engage with you guys whenever possible. So keep the questions coming, but try not to send them to my Facebook page inbox, or post them in the, I suppose you can post them in the YouTube comments, because I'm sure other people can answer. But if you've got questions, wait till I do another Q&A video. Keep your eyes peeled for that on my Facebook page, and when you see that, post your question there and I'll do my best to answer it. Right, thank you for watching. Got some cool hunting stuff coming up soon. See you next time. Cheers, guys.